Hi, I'm Martha Timke, and welcome to Cedar Crest Kitchen. Today, we're going to make marshmallows. Rose water and cardamom marshmallows. A little while ago, a friend of mine gave me a bottle of this rose water, which smells amazing. But I've never really used it very much in cooking, so I wanted to try a little experiment. I also love cardamom, and a little research showed me that rosewater and cardamom are good friends. Marshmallows are meringue stabilized with gelatin. Meringue is egg whites and sugar. Depending on how you put them together, makes different kinds. You can make a common meringue, or also called a French meringue, and that's by simply sprinkling sugar into whipping egg whites. Or you can make a Swiss meringue by taking egg whites and sugar and combining them in a bowl over a double boiler, or a bain-marie, and heating it to about 100 to 120 degrees while you're whisking it and making sure that the sugar gets dissolved. We are going to be making Italian meringue today. We make Italian meringue by cooking the sugar syrup to either softball stage, or in this case today, soft crack stage. We're going to be cooking it to about 284 degrees. And then we pour it into our whipping whites, which will be in here. Add the gelatin, of course, flavoring, and then pour it into a container or a pan. So the first thing I need to do when I'm making meringue is I need to bloom my gelatin. Now these are gelatin sheets. Gelatin comes in two forms, either in sheet form like this, or you can get it granulated. Think Knox gelatin, the kind that you get at the grocery store. Knox gelatin, powdered gelatin, is just this stuff ground up into tiny particles. No matter what kind of gelatin you get, it needs to be bloomed. It needs to hydrate in water, soak up some water. I'm going to stick these gelatin sheets into my ice water. If your water is warm coming out of the tap, be sure to add some ice to it. One tip, a Timke tip. Don't just dump all of your sheets into the water all at once. They'll stick together around the edge, and then the water won't be able to get to the inside pieces. So one at a time, sticking it into the water. Just make sure that it gets well into the water, and each gelatin sheet gets saturated. They soften up right away, so you can bend them around, move them around. If you've never worked with gelatin sheets before, when they start getting soft, they're kind of like contact lenses, if you know what that's like. You can buy sheet gelatin online, or you can get it through a purveyor if you're working for a company that has a purveyor that sells sheet gelatin. Otherwise, you can do the conversion and buy Knox gelatin at the grocery store. Okay, now our gelatin is hydrating. I'm going to put it to the side. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to hydrate the gelatin, but as long as it's in ice water, it can sit there for as long as I need it to, as long as it's not warm water. Warm water will melt my gelatin. Next thing I need to make sure I do is to prepare my pan. So this is the pan that I'm going to be putting my marshmallow into when I'm done making it. And I have a piece of parchment paper here just to line the bottom. It's going to make it a lot easier for me to get it out of the pan when I'm done. And I'm going to spray the pan with a little bit of pan spray. This is mostly to stick the paper down, because then I'm going to further spray my paper with a little bit of pan spray. I want to choose a pan that's not too big. I need to be able to get an accurate reading on my thermometer, so I need to be able to get this in deep enough. There are some rules I need to follow while I'm cooking the sugar so that it doesn't recrystallize. Sugar is a crystal, and it always wants to go back to being a crystal, and we don't want that to happen. So number one, once I've got my sugar in the pan with my water, I've turned on the heat, I'm going to stir it gently until it boils. Number two, When it comes to a boil, stop stirring. Number 3, add an invert sugar or an acid. In this case, I have corn syrup, or you could use glucose. Handy dandy little trick. Line a bowl with some saran wrap and measure your corn syrup into that. Then I can bring it over, poke a little hole in it, and squeeze it right out. No mess. Number 4, skim off any impurities. And number 5, brush down any crystals that might form around the sides with a clean brush and some clean water. You don't want to be too aggressive about this. Any water that goes back into the solution is just going to have to cook off. So only do this if you see crystals forming, just to get those washed back into the solution. I fit my thermometer onto the pot, and now I'm going to wait for it to get to 284 degrees, which is soft crack stage. It's been about 10 or 15 minutes, and my sugar is about 270 degrees. And now I'm going to turn on my mixer and get my egg whites whipping. My sugar is at 285 degrees. My egg whites are at a soft peak. Very soft, not over-whipped. If you were nervous about time, you could take a little bit of your sugar and whip it into your whites so that it doesn't over-whip. I'm going to squeeze out my gelatin just like a sponge, not too hard, you don't want to break it up. Just get rid of any excess liquid. And I'm going to stir that into my sugar syrup, and that's going to melt my gelatin. Careful, this is steamy. And once that's nicely melted, it's also going to stop the cooking of the sugar. There we go. I'm going to pour this into my whipping whites. And when I'm pouring it in, I want to let it kind of drizzle down the side, because I don't want the whisk to pick up the sugar syrup and spray it all over the bowl. So just kind of a nice, slow, steady stream. Once I've got all my sugar in there, I'm going to add my cardamom, sprinkle it right in. And my rose water. I think I'll start with a half a cupful. Now I'm going to turn it up a little bit and let it whisk for about 5 minutes until it's a little bit cooler and nice and thick. It's been about 5 minutes that my marshmallow has been whipping. I'm just going to pour it right into my prepared pan. I could also pipe this. Wouldn't that be fun? Make little rosettes, or even initials for a kid's birthday party or something like that. I'm just going to spread this out. Push it up into the corners, make it nice and even, or as even as you want it to be. You want to make a little decoration on top, that's fine. They're your marshmallows. You can make these thick, you can make them skinny. I did taste this a little bit as it was whisking around just to see if I got it right. And you know what? The rose water and the cardamom are delicious. Once I've got it spread in my pan, I'm going to take a mixture, 50-50 cornstarch and powdered sugar, and I'm just going to dust the top. Nice even coating, kind of like snowing on the marshmallows. Again, if you wanted to make chocolate or coffee, spans around what flavors you want to do. But you can figure it out how to get some extract in there. Sift some cocoa powder into your marshmallow when it's finished whipping. And then instead of using cornstarch, do 50-50 cornstarch and cocoa powder to dust your marshmallow with. Here we are with our finished marshmallows. It's not set, so be careful. I'm going to let this sit for about 3 hours. I could even let it sit overnight. If you're going to let it sit overnight, just put some saran on it, set it on the side so it doesn't get any dust in it. Do not put this into the refrigerator. The refrigerator is a moist atmosphere and it will just make it sticky. Welcome back to Cedar Crest Kitchen for day 2 of marshmallows. These marshmallows that we made yesterday have been sitting undisturbed since yesterday. They're nice and firm. The top is pretty dry. You can see if I touch it like that, it's nice and firm. But I need to get them out of the pan and onto the cutting board so that I can cut them. And they are a little bit sticky. So a little trick that I have found that works really well is to take a piece of paper towel or cloth if you like and spray it pretty generously with some pan spray. And I may have to do this over and over again depending on how many marshmallows I want to cut. Pan spray on my towel, and I'm just going to wipe the blade of my knife carefully, don't cut yourself, with some pan spray. As I go around the edge of the pan and just slice it and loosen it from the edge of the pan. Now I should be able to turn it over, and if things are going well, I can stick my finger under here and this will just ease right out of the pan. And I have marshmallows, and here's my paper that helped keep it from sticking. Sometimes this comes with the marshmallow and sometimes it stays in the pan. So isn't this beautiful? Lovely marshmallows. Now I want to cut these into squares. I could use a cookie cutter if I like, but I'm going to end up with a lot of waste. So I find that cutting it into squares works really the best. You'll notice that I'm wearing rubber gloves. I'm wearing rubber gloves because these are ready to eat. I'm not going to cook them any further, and they're going to be served to a customer or my family. The first thing I want to do is to cut a nice clean edge. So I'm going to come over to the edge and just come right down. And because I sprayed a little pan spray on my knife, it's not going to stick as much. Each time I go to cut my marshmallows, I just give it a swipe with my paper towel. Now I need to measure, because I want all of these marshmallows to be exactly the same size. These marshmallows are going to be kind of small, just 1-inch marshmallows. So I'm going to mark 1 inch all the way down. I'm going to move my ruler a little bit and do the same thing a few inches away. Now my knife is straight, so if I connect these 2 marks that I made, I am going to have a nice straight line, and I'm going to cut all the way down, wiping, of course, my knife in between each cut. Now that I have this cut into 1-inch slices, I want to cut these into 1-inch squares. So I'm going to puzzle these back together again. Just like this. Turn my tray and do just what I did before. Measure 1-inch pieces a few times, maybe once, twice, 3 times, and then use my knife as my guide. Remember, my knife is straight, so if I just connect the dots, I will get nice, straight, even slices. After I've got my marshmallows evenly cut, I'm going to toss them into a mixture of cornstarch and powdered sugar. That same 50-50 mix that we used yesterday. Just kind of separate them up, drop them into the mixture, and give them a good toss. This is going to create a coating on the outside of each marshmallow that's going to eventually firm up and kind of dry. So these won't be sticky anymore, and they'll have a nice little coating, crunch of a coating on the outside. So there we have it. For the price of a few eggs, some sugar, a little time and effort, we have a beautiful plate of rose water and cardamom marshmallows. Elegant enough for a fancy dinner, and simple enough to top some hot chocolate. I'm Martha Timke here at Cedar Crest Kitchen. Thanks for watching.